They ignore you, not because you are weak, but because you are predictable. They know how you will respond. They know you will explain. You will forgive. You will stay. And in that predictability, they find their power. You were trained to be kind. They were trained to test kind people. You confuse peacekeeping with strength. They know the difference. You speak gently, hoping to be understood. They speak to provoke, to see where your limits truly are. This is the hidden game. You never agreed to play it, but you are already in it. Pause. Now let us speak plainly. The world does not reward the emotionally available. It feeds off them. Your openness becomes currency for others. They buy control with your guilt. They buy comfort with your overthinking. And when you finally begin to shatter, they say you were always too sensitive. They are not confused. They are not innocent. They are calculating. Understand this. People test softness the way fire tests paper. They want to see if you will burn easily. They press where you flinch. They delay where you crave closure. They withhold, not because they forgot, but because your suffering benefits them. If someone disrespects you and nothing changes, you just train them to do it again. Here is the truth you were never told. The more emotionally transparent you are, the easier it is to control you. They do not need power if they have your reaction, your explanation, your need to be understood. That is enough. You become a puppet whose strings are your own emotions. Do not chase. Do not explain. Withdraw instead. That is how they learn. Now, let us unlearn what the world taught you. The first law of mental strength is neutrality, not kindness, not cruelty, just silence. Cold, unreadable silence. When you speak only when needed, they begin to fear what you are not saying, what you are not showing, what you may be planning. A person who cannot be read cannot be played. Understand this clearly. Silence is not emptiness. It is calculation. A pause is not weakness. It is a weapon. When you do not react, others are forced to reflect. You hold the mirror, and they must look into it alone. Do not teach them with words. Teach them with silence. Withdraw your presence. Starve them of your emotions. Offer no clues, no patterns. Become untrackable. Not loud, not passive, just distant. Because here is a rule. Respect is not given. It is enforced through absence. When you pull back, they will feel the shift. They will search for the old version of you. The one who responded, who chased, who begged for peace. And when they do not find it, the balance of power begins to change. Now they are guessing. Now they are cautious. Now they are small. This is not about revenge. That is still emotional. That is still attachment. This is about control. The only kind that lasts control over yourself, your emotions, your presence, your choices. From this place, you become untouchable. They cannot provoke you because your emotions are not on display. They cannot guilt you because your absence is not defensive. It is decisive. They cannot manipulate you because your mind is no longer accessible. That is what true power looks like, not noise, but stillness, not revenge, but evolution. The next time someone pushes you, do not push back. Watch instead. Let them expose their need for chaos. Let them wonder why you are not responding. Let them tremble in the silence you leave behind. This is the moment they begin to realize they never had power, they only had access. And now, access is denied. Every person you meet carries an unspoken question. How far can I go with you? They do not always ask it out loud. Most never need to. They observe, they test, they provoke. And based on your first reactions, they decide your value, your limits, your role in their life. If you respond with eagerness, they assume you lack options. If you respond with emotion, they assume you lack control. If you respond with kindness, they assume you seek approval. That is the human algorithm. Cold, predictable, ancient. You may believe your goodness will protect you, but to those who live by strategy, goodness is just another weakness to be exploited. To stop being prey, you must first stop behaving like one. Emotional accessibility is a luxury only the powerful can afford. Until then, you must be disciplined, measured, quiet. Let me be clear. Mental strength is not about being feared. It is about being unreadable. When people cannot place you, they cannot use you. Mystery is more powerful than reputation. Mystery forces respect before understanding even begins. In a world where most people overshare, your silence becomes sacred. Here is what they will never teach you. You lose nothing by saying less. You gain time, space, attention, and power. You gain the advantage of study, while others reveal themselves in the noise of their own performance. Speak rarely, and when you do, speak deliberately, not to please, not to explain, but to anchor the room in your presence. Let your words sound like decisions, not commentary. Final, not conversational. You do not need to be liked. You need to be respected. Liking is emotional. Respect is strategic. The former is a temporary feeling, the latter, a lasting structure. Do not confuse attention with validation. A person who constantly seeks reactions is a person others learn to manage, not admire. Your silence must never feel like withdrawal. It must feel like command. Understand this. Control is not about domination. It is about invisibility. You become powerful when people know you are there, but cannot predict what you will do. You become intimidating when you smile without explanation, walk away without closure, and stand still while others unravel. Let them speak, let them guess, let them project. Every story they invent in your silence becomes their own confusion, not your burden. This is how the world begins to adjust to your presence. Not because you forced it, but because you removed yourself from the game of needing to be seen, heard, or approved. That is the turning point, when your absence speaks louder than your presence ever did. Do not show anger. Show indifference. Indifference is the language of power. It tells them, you are no longer important enough to disturb me. And the ones who try to control you with chaos, they will fall apart when you no longer flinch. Their power existed only in your reaction, and now you are no longer reacting. This is how fear is born, not through threats, but through silence that feels surgical, through poise that does not crack, through distance that offers no explanation. They may ask you, why did you change? Say nothing. They are not owed a map to your transformation. Let them feel it. Let them adjust to it. Let them wonder how far you are willing to go now that you are no longer soft. This is what happens when survival becomes strategy. When peace is no longer your default, but your reward. You become the person who cannot be shaken because you have trained yourself to feel everything but reveal nothing. That is the essence of Machiavellian strength. Do not correct them. Let them misunderstand you. Do not warn them. Let them discover. Do not argue. Let your absence become the only conversation. The moment you stop seeking to be understood, you become dangerous. There will come a time when you realize this. Not everyone in your life was there to support you. Some were there to study you, to map your fears, to memorize your insecurities, and to wait patiently for the right moment to use them. The betrayal you feel was not an accident. It was a transaction. You paid with trust. They profited with leverage. Stop asking why they changed. Start asking why you ignored the signs. You allowed too much. You explained too often. You remained visible while they remained calculating. And now, you are left wondering what happened. Here is what happened. They understood the game. You did not. You were playing for connection. They were playing for position. And the moment they realized you could not detach, they began to control the rhythm, the delays, the insults masked as jokes, the disappearing when you needed clarity, the returning when you started healing. This is not personal to them. It is just strategy. The world is full of people who sharpen their self-worth on the backs of the emotionally available. The more you give, the less you are valued. There is no kindness in that, only arithmetic. Learn this now. Attention is a currency, and every time you respond, you pay. So stop giving discounts. They complain when you grow distant. not because they miss you, but because they lost their access to control you. Your silence is no longer compliance. It is now resistance. And resistance terrifies people who rely on your predictability. If you want peace, you must build walls, not to shut people out, but to filter who gets in. Everyone does not deserve access. Everyone does not deserve your story, especially those who only visit your life to stir the waters and leave you to drown in the silence they created. Your power lies in knowing this. You are no longer a home for chaos. Embrace the tension of solitude. It is not emptiness, it is purification. The absence of noise is the beginning of clarity, and when your mind clears, your standards rise. You no longer chase energy that confuses you. You no longer wait for closure. You no longer offer your soul to those who only came for the softest parts of you. This is the stage of becoming unreadable, and with it, something dangerous awakens in you. Presence without need. They do not know how to handle someone who does not flinch, who does not beg, who does not respond on cue. You break the script, and once the script breaks, their power dissolves. Now you are a mirror, not a servant, and mirrors are feared because they show truth without commentary. They reflect without compromise. This is why most people avoid the strong. It is not the strength they fear, it is the silence, the gaze, the lack of emotional feedback. You become a wall where their manipulation shatters. They cannot play the game if you refuse the board. Now observe what happens. They begin to accuse you of being cold, detached, selfish, not because you are wrong, but because you are no longer easy to extract energy from. You have closed the well. The water is no longer free, and the ones who used to drink from it, they are now exposed as thirsty, not for you, but for what you gave them. Validation, reaction, control. That is what they miss. This is your new reality. You will be misunderstood by those who benefited from your weakness. You will be resented by those who cannot control you. You will be feared by those who once played you. Let that be their burden, not yours. You do not owe softness to those who exploited your softness. You do not owe words to those who weaponized your voice. You do not owe access to those who once mistook you for safe and silent. Machiavellian strength is not about cruelty. It is about precision. You speak when it serves your peace. You act when it protects your power. You disappear when it maintains your mystery. And when you return on your own terms. No explanations, no emotional openings, just presence, composed, silent, unreadable. That is how they begin to fear what you have become. There is a cost to every version of you that you allow others to access. The agreeable version, the apologetic version, the always available version. Each one demanded energy you gave freely, and in return, you received erosion. Erosion of boundaries, erosion of time, erosion of identity. Understand this truth. You are not being overlooked because you lack value. You are being overlooked because you gave it away too cheaply. When your presence costs nothing, your absence means nothing. This is why you must become rare. Not rare in talent, not rare in beauty, rare in availability, rare in reactivity, rare in the ability to be pulled into cycles you did not choose. Most people seek comfort, not clarity. They do not want truth. They want relief. They want to be heard but not held accountable. They want your attention but not your standards. Mental strength begins when you refuse to play that role any longer. You do not give peace to those who create chaos. You do not give trust to those who exploit openness. You do not give time to those who treat it as a guarantee. This is where most people fail. They believe boundaries must be explained, justified, negotiated. They do not. Silence is a boundary. Absence is a boundary. No reply is a boundary. You owe no explanation for protecting your peace. Those who require one are the very reason you needed the boundary in the first place. You will notice something when you enforce this. They will not ask how to be better. They will ask why you changed. Not because they care, but because your new self no longer benefits them. The moment you stop being convenient, they will start calling you distant. They will label your boundaries as arrogance, your silence as ego, your growth as betrayal. Let them. It is not your duty to make others comfortable with your evolution, especially those who profited from your stagnation. Your new power does not scream, it does not announce, it does not prove. It simply exists, and because it cannot be manipulated, it becomes intimidating. Remember, predictable people are easy to position. Unreadable people are dangerous to underestimate. You want to become the type of person whose calm makes others question their noise, whose gaze makes others reconsider their words, whose absence feels like a punishment, even though it was just a decision. Do not reward chaos with attention. Do not reward guilt with explanation. Do not reward disrespect with another chance. Your attention must become selective, your time guarded, your energy expensive. Because when everything about you is accessible, nothing about you is respected. They will call it cold. They will call it harsh. But the truth is simpler. You no longer hand out weapons for people to use against you. This is not bitterness. Bitterness reacts. This is clarity. Clarity removes. You do not need to speak to be understood. You need to embody silence that cannot be misread. Here is the paradox. The more emotionally neutral you become, the more control you gain, not over others, but over yourself. And that is what makes you unshakable. No one fears a loud presence. They fear a presence that is watching, silent, still, and entirely indifferent to approval. This is not for everyone. Most will retreat back into comfort, into explanation, into reaction. But for those who are ready to evolve, there is only one path. Learn to live with being misunderstood. Learn to be calm when others panic. Learn to stand still when others beg for your return. And above all, learn to let people feel the cost of losing access to you. Do not punish them. Do not warn them. Do not plead. Just disappear from the role they assigned you and reappear as someone they can no longer read, predict, or misuse. That is the art of presence, not noise, not reaction, but stillness so exact it becomes a form of psychological warfare. It is not your job to fix the discomfort others feel when you stop shrinking. When you remove your compliance, your forgiveness, your need to be liked, the world will notice, and it will resist, because your transformation threatens the systems that depended on your softness. They were not drawn to your strength. They were drawn to your silence when you were in pain. Your endurance was not admired, it was used. Now that you have chosen to become unreadable, now that you have stepped into power that does not announce itself, they will call you changed, difficult, ruthless. Let them speak. You must stop trying to be the version of yourself they remember. That version was negotiable, emotional, available for blame, praise, guilt, and persuasion. You do not owe your past self another performance. Power is not reclaimed through revenge, it is reclaimed through discipline. You must begin to subtract. Subtract the need to be understood. Subtract the habit of explaining. Subtract the tendency to correct those who twist your image. Subtract everything that once made your strength conditional. You will be tempted to return to softness, to reassure, to clear misunderstandings. Do not. They understood you when it benefited them. They became confused only when it stopped. Machiavellian strength demands you step out of the emotional economy. Your emotions are no longer currency. They are no longer up for negotiation. You feel them. You do not display them. And because of that, you become dangerous. You do not win through aggression. You win through detachment. You win by choosing when, how, and if you engage. You win by making them feel your absence more than they ever appreciated your presence. Most people speak to be validated. You will speak only when it is strategic. Most people react to defend their identity. You will react only when it strengthens your position, and when others realize they cannot pull you into the noise, they will begin to lose control over their own. This is your new posture. Detached, unbothered, precise. You do not wait for respect. You enforce it with distance. You do not chase clarity. You replace confusion with silence. You do not fight for truth. You let the consequences reveal it. Mental strength is not emotional suppression. It is emotional discipline. You still feel. You still hurt. You still process. But you do not perform. To the outside world, your silence becomes myth. Your presence becomes rumor. Your calm becomes threatening. And your name becomes a question. What changed them? The answer is simple. You stopped giving people the benefit of the doubt when they kept giving you proof. You started watching what they did, not what they said. You stopped tolerating patterns you once made excuses for. You no longer argue about your worth. You let your absence reveal it. From this space, you become unpredictable. And unpredictable people are respected because they are difficult to corner, difficult to manipulate, and impossible to replace. Now they hesitate. Now they double-think their words. Now they realize the version of you they once controlled no longer exists. You are not cold. You are clear. And clarity is a threat to those who built their comfort on your confusion. So move differently. Do not explain. Do not hint. Do not signal. Let your transformation be silent. Let it unfold in how you no longer participate. Let it echo in how you no longer respond. Most will not understand it. That is the point. Their understanding is no longer your concern. Let them learn the new rules by losing the old access. And remember this, the person who needs less always controls the dynamic. You do not need their approval. You do not need their closure. You do not need their version of the story. You have exited the stage. And now, they speak to a silence that does not reply. That is what it means to become untouchable. There is one final lesson. Strength is not how much you can carry. It is how little you allow to control you. You were taught that endurance meant absorbing more, giving more, explaining more. But the truth is this. Power begins the moment you start choosing where your energy goes and who is allowed to feel it. When you become emotionally silent, people listen louder. When you become unavailable, people value access. When you become unreadable, people stop playing games. That is the paradox. When you stop reaching, they begin to notice. When you stop seeking, they begin to search. When you stop showing need, they feel theirs. This is not manipulation. This is correction. This is balance. Returning to the place where you once gave endlessly and received confusion. You are no longer an open door. You are a locked gate. Not to keep everyone out, but to test who is willing to knock with respect. You do not demand loyalty. You create conditions where disloyalty eliminates itself. You do not expose betrayal. You let the silence reveal what words would only disguise. You do not chase peace. You withdraw from war. In this final form, your mental strength becomes a presence, a force. It needs no introduction. It walks into rooms and alters tone. It speaks through stillness. It corrects with absence. It watches, calculates, and never needs to warn. The most powerful people are not those who shout. They are those who no longer need to speak. Those whose boundaries are enforced without dialogue. Those whose value is felt most deeply after they leave. You are no longer afraid to lose people. You are afraid to lose your clarity. That is growth. You are no longer afraid of being misunderstood. You are afraid of being drained. That is maturity. You are no longer focused on being liked. You are focused on being respected. That is strategy. Let them talk. Let them spin the narrative. Let them invent reasons for your silence. None of that matters. What matters is that you have stepped into a version of yourself they no longer recognize and that they never saw coming. The version that cannot be manipulated through emotion. The version that does not react to noise. The version that is not interested in teaching people how to treat you because you already have, and now you have left. You are no longer in the business of explaining your worth. You are no longer in the business of earning proximity. You are no longer in the business of proving you are enough. You simply are. If someone cannot sense the value of your presence, then they will be trained by the echo of your absence. So this is how you become untouchable. You silence your need to be seen. You subtract those who subtract from you. You make your energy expensive and your boundaries absolute. And you let the world adjust. They will call it ego. Let them. They called it humility when you broke yourself to serve their comfort. They will call it cold. Let them. They called it warmth when you allowed disrespect in the name of peace. They will call it harsh. Let them. They called it grace when you tolerated the intolerable. Let their words be wind. You are no longer available for cheap interpretations. You are no longer in reach of their projections. You are no longer in orbit around anything that requires you to become smaller in order to keep the peace. You have chosen silence over performance, distance over drama, strength over softness that costs your soul. You will lose people in this process. Let them go. They were not built to know you in this form, and you will find yourself, the version of you that does not chase, does not beg, does not break. The version that is strategic, composed, distant, and impossible to predict. The one they whisper about. The one they underestimated. The one they can no longer access. That is the final transformation. Now share this with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment about your journey. Someone may need to read it. Subscribe if you are ready to grow through this together.